Hi, everybody. This is Nate. Welcome to Meet the Psychic Press. And I really wanted to thank Jill, Rob, and Anne for being with me today. They have volunteered their time and efforts to ask me some questions, and I'm very grateful for it. I am sure that they have prepared very interesting questions. And so, on behalf of the community, I really wanted to thank you. I also wanted to share with everyone that if you want to be a member of the Psychic Press and be here with this show, it's very easy. You just need to email me and we'll put you on the next show. So before we get started, I would like to ask my three guests just to say a couple words about themselves and so we can get to know them better. So, Jill?
Hi, Nate, Rob, and Ann, and everyone out there. I'm Jill. I live in Washington, D.C. I am a former journalist and reporter, now a writer, and I am very happy to be here and always interested to hear what Nathe says about what's going on around the world. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much. I believe this is the first time we have a pro journalist on this show, so I guess like we're really getting up the chain here.
I'll try
So,
to be very serious, very serious. Yeah.
Rob,
Hello, my name is Rob. I am a project manager, and like Jill, I'm also in the Washington, D.C. area. I've been here for about 30 years, and I absolutely love Washington, D.C. I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. It's so vibrant, so much going on, and enjoy being here.
thank you. And welcome, Anne.
Hello, everybody. I'm Ann. I'm from Northern Arizona, originally from California. And I was in the insurance business. I owned an agency for about 25 years and stopped that to take care of my mom. And I didn't want to vegetate, so I went to law school. And now that I'm retired and I just took the bar exam, I'm opening a shelter on my ranch for animals and trying to get them off the euthanasia list, mostly dogs and cats. It's going to be called Braveheart Farm Sanctuary. And thank you for allowing me to be here.
Thank you so much, Anne, and I'll make sure that I put the information for the sanctuary on the description of the video or as a pin message, so if people are interested, they can go there. So with no further ado, I'll invite Jill to start your segment with your questions.
Okay, so I have a few questions, a little bit all over the map. But the first is about the protests around Gaza and Palestine that happened in Italy this past week. My social media feed was filled with those protests. It really shut down the country. Do you see those continuing in Italy, and will it spread throughout the EU?
Thank you for your question. The first thing before I pull some cards about it is that living in the EU, I can tell you that there's actually a lot of movements. There are a lot of protests. There are a lot of organizations who are very concerned about what's happening in Gaza in all the different countries in Europe. The reason I mention it, it's because I also watch the American news and the US news, and I know that not all the news just travel back to the US. In France, in the UK, in Spain particularly, the protests have been extremely important. There is the equivalent of the Tour de France, which is the cycling competition in Spain that was interrupted a couple times due to protests. And if you watch Spain carefully, you see that Spain has taken a very strong stand in how they see the conflict. There is no organized, I would say, European level, um, um, what should I say, uh, uh, organized action to really put a true opinion from Europe on this particular situation. But a lot of individual countries are doing some individual protests, I would say. So Italy, I feel like It's been there, but we've heard about it more recently. So let's read on that. It's also true that this week, France and Saudi Arabia went to the United Nations. France recognized Palestine as a state, and many other countries joined, the UK, Canada. So there's a lot of momentum going in. So the question is, will there be an acceleration on the protests regarding Gaza in Italy and an expansion into Europe? Protests around Gaza in Italy. Okay, I understand. So I do feel here that there will be some protest, but with the temperance, I think the Italian government will try to limit the protests. We know that Giorgia Meloni has been particularly careful not to let those protest movements move forward. And I feel like with the Three of Swords, they're going to try to really limit them. It's interesting because the final card is the Empress, and I feel like that's Giorgia Meloni. And so my read on this question is, yes, I can see there's the movement, but I also feel like the Italian government will try to contain this movement as much as possible.
Interesting. Yeah, that wouldn't be a surprise, really.
Yes.
We've all been fascinated, I think, with the outpouring of grief and maybe incredulity around the world with the murder of Charlie Kirk recently. How will Charlie Kirk be remembered in 20 years?
Okay. It's interesting because I'm seeing confirmation of certain elements that I've seen in the past when I look at this question. So I'll explain why. The first is the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups is really about emotion. And so this will seen as something very emotional, that it created a big emotional turmoil for people, which I think it's very true. The Eight of Cups, it's a card of loss. What is very interesting is we see someone leaving, but some of those cups are still very present. That tells me that he may be exiting the earth, but some of his work will continue. So that could be via a foundation, by his wife, so some of his work will continue. The next card is the moon. The moon really brings secrets. So that kind of ties to all the stuff that we haven't heard yet about it. And interestingly enough, I always get the Empress. The Empress tells me about a foreign influence with this murder, and I've got this multiple times. And so I feel like there will be more clarity around the circumstances of his passing and who was involved, but particularly from an international standpoint.
Oh, interesting. Well, speaking of secrets, that leads me to my next question. Marjorie Taylor Greene here in the U.S. in the Congress has been really holding President Trump to account for releasing the Epstein files. And she has made some sort of announcements like perhaps she will break with the administration over this. Do you see that really happening? Will she break away and become not so MAGA?
Or a different sort of MAGA, or break away in her own MAGA version of which I feel just the reason I say that is just the energies that I'm getting, but let's see through the cards. First card that jumped is the Ace of Pentacles, something new, as if she starts a new movement, you know. And you can see Pentacles are money, so there's also an aspect that maybe she's collecting money to launch something. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, what can you say? The Hermit. So she is kind of siding on her own. That kind of, and it's interesting because we have also the number 1 here. So she's isolating herself. 9 of Wands, there's some healing. That means that there's a conflict here. The Wheel of Fortune, a change. I feel that that's what I was feeling. I would say that my prediction would be that she pulls away from the current MAGA movement and creates some sort of a sub movement that carries maybe kind of the traditional MAGA energies. I got the World, which also tells me maybe a foreign influence here might be involved. But it's the completion of something new. And then I get a celebration. She might actually be successful bringing people along.
Oh, interesting. Well, there'll be something to look forward to, I suppose. Next question has to do here in the States again with immigration. And we've seen that there are immigration agents who are swooping in and arresting people on the streets and everywhere. And there are reports coming that some of these people are being taken offshore out of the country to these dark or hidden locations. Will this grow around the world? Will these secret locations proliferate? Will there be more of them in the future?
Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like it is part of a plan. Okay, this is organized. King of Wands and Queen of Wands, this is something that is just didn't appear like this. There's an actual plan. I feel like also your question ties with a question about people that were in the alligator Alcatraz, alligator jail or whatever. What was the name again?
Alligator,
Um,
yeah.
Alcatraz, yes. And they disappear, like about 1,000 people disappeared. And when I read on it, I felt like they are in different locations, but overseas. I don't see them in the US. So I think your question really ties to that. Look, the Three of Wands, we see them overseas. They took their ship, they went away. They're really not in good conditions. Five of Pentacles out in the cold. Seven of Pentacles, it's with governments, foreign governments who are taking money to hold those facilities. It's basically like El Salvador, but we just don't know about it.
Yeah.
So it's a
Will
prime form of the El Salvador facility.
Yeah. Will those people eventually be returned to the US?
The cards I'm getting are encouraging, strangely enough, because I was about to say no, but I feel like they are indicated with the Wheel of Fortune that some change will happen. Hopefully, with the new administration, that would be my intuition.
Okay. Well, that's encouraging. My
Yes.
last question is about GLP-1 medications. These are medications for weight loss, very popular here and around the world. These are like Ozempic and Wegovy. will they become more popular as they become less expensive? Do you see that happening?
Yes, because those medicine seem to work, at least that's what we hear in the media, but they're extremely expensive. I believe that, and especially in the US, if you compare those costs in the US as compared to, let's say, in Europe, I think it's like a 3x differential. So that makes it the point I wanted to make here. It's like it feels like a luxury to have the opportunity to take advantage of a medicine which feels very, very wrong. So will there be, I think your question was, will there be an opportunity to lower the cost of those medicines in the future? Will the cost go down? The Three of
No.
Swords is a no. The King of Wands, to me, it's not a person in particular, but it's the powers that be. You know, the pharmaceuticals company. No, 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 the Three of Swords. The Nine of Swords. It is unfortunately no. Eight of Cups. I keep getting no.
Okay, interesting.
I feel like the energy I feel from it is clearly they made some investment. It certainly costs money to do research and development, no doubt. But it's almost like they found kind of a gold mine and they're not willing to let go of that gold mine anytime soon.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Welcome. Welcome. Great questions, Jill. Thank you. And now we welcome Rob.
Perfect. Thank you, Nathe. The first question I have deals around the stock market. I think everyone is concerned about the stock market. We all have our 401k plans in the stock market these days. So I know in the past you've said that you felt sometime in the October timeframe the market will go down. So my question is, how long would approximately, because I think we all know that time is sort of difficult to do it, and I'm totally sensitive to that. But how long do you think the market will go down? And do you see it going down like more than, or let's say, well, I'm going to be optimistic. Let's say less than 20%, or is it be more like less than 10%? And when do you start to see it coming back up again?
Yeah, I feel more in the 5-10% range, but it's still a lot when it's your own money, obviously. This is the combination of, oh, we lost Anne for a second. Let's hope she redives back in. I do feel that we're gonna be seeing that as a consequence of the tariffs, consequence of prices going up, inflation, the economy not doing well, and then also the value of the dollar, the US dollar, that just keeps going down and down and down. And so I certainly feel that the accumulation of all of these will really create the market to panic a little bit. And I feel like it's a drop in the market, but also I see small size banks having problems as well. So let's look in the cards, just a card around the stock market. I see a struggle here, the Five of Swords. This has to deal with money. Ten of Pentacles reversed. There's a sense of a struggle with money. The Four of Wands was also reversed. And usually I don't read reversals, but they came up like that. And so to me, that tells me like the stability, there's something touching on the stability of the market that gets, I'm hearing like a loss of confidence.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And do you get a feeling as to when it'll start to rebound, maybe with the midterm elections?
Yes. at a much better level, but not before next year fully, I feel.
Right, right. Okay, perfect. Thank you. And along those same lines, there's been lots of advances with AI. You go into LinkedIn, there's more and more jobs for AI, and that's going to take away a lot of the white collar jobs. So I'm curious, how much with the unemployment, do you expect the unemployment to go up, and how much of that would be contributed to the white collar job losses? And of course, when will it start to recover again?
I mean, the AI trend and AI doing people's jobs, that's a trend that's there to continue and to stay. I sometimes get, will the AI bubble burst? No, we're nowhere near, I mean, at least not now. We're nowhere near the top of that bubble. So it is something that we clearly will have to deal with. Now, I also want to point out that the big shift that I see for AI is in developing countries, in China, in India, in Vietnam, where more developed nations outsource their work to lower level labor costs in those countries. And now they're getting challenged themselves with a very large populations to people that were doing sometimes more repetitive work. And then with AI, all these populations are actually, I feel like it's a very bigger threat
Mm,
as far as the globe, because a lot of companies outsourced repetitive tasks to countries that now will have to replace themselves, those people, with AI. And so that's going to create a huge challenge. I actually see problems in China. I see problems in India for the years to come with people that won't just have enough work. So the unemployment that the more developed countries have experienced since the 80s, the 90s, they're gonna face that for a different reason. Now, I'm not saying that there's no issues in the US, but frankly, in comparison, this is not as bad. Okay, so I wanted to say that first. AI, in the more developed countries, and what's the influence. This is gonna be a slow but continuous. Um, this is the Knight of Pentacles. This is the slowest night. So this is gonna be gradual. I don't think it's gonna be like boom type energy. Um, Cuts will be made to workforces anywhere where it's this be automated. The Nine of Wands, healing and repair will have to be done. Um, and we're gonna have to be patient with all this. Um, can you tell me one more impact about AI in developed countries? One more specific things. Oh, this is really interesting. I was getting justice. So justice to me, we know that in a lot of countries, the paperwork involved dealing with justice, the court system, and all that. It's interesting. I never thought about it until I got this card. It's touching all the fields, but we might benefit from really an optimization of the courts and justice to be served just because of the administrative work that's involved. We always feel like justice is too slow, no matter where you are. It takes sometimes years to get all the paperwork, etc., etc. It could lead to a positive. I think this is why the spirit showed me this, because we see AI in positive and negative, but what would be the benefit for the justice system?
mm,
Obviously, there's risks too, um, because we don't want AI to make the decisions.
right,
And that's
right.
like a whole different topic where, there are studies with AI in the medical field and AI diagnosing patients' symptoms. And so we could talk an hour about this, but that's just one field that I think it came through because I never really thought about it, but AI in the justice system.
So how high do you expect the US unemployment to be before it goes back down again? I think right now, gosh, I can't remember. It's in the 4% range. Do you see it going up to 5 or 6% before it goes back down again, or even higher?
Here is the thing. More than anything, what I heard is the numbers, you can expect those numbers to be inaccurate because the Trump administration has
Right,
already started to mask those numbers.
right.
And so actually, we're not going to know the true
Okay.
number. But I feel like you could expect if it's 5%, yeah, it could get to easy 8% with like a 3 or 4% related to AI. I could see that.
Well, not perfect, but thank you. And I agree. We won't get the accurate numbers. Um, the next question is, since I'm in the DC area, there's going to be, well, not hopefully, but there's talk of a government shutdown happening Wednesday at 12:01 in the morning. Do you see there being a shutdown happening, or do you see the CR going into effect, which I think, if I remember correctly, is be sometime in mid-November? And of course, that spurs a lot of other questions. If there is a CR, will there be another CR again, or will there eventually be a shutdown?
Yeah, so I read on that a couple to different shows. So I'm going to stick with what I felt during those views. I didn't feel like there was a long shutdown. I might feel like there might not be a shutdown at all because at the end of the day, I saw some sort of discussion or compromise or action. And so it could be like at the last minute, something is worked through. I got that energy of last minute. So either last minute there's an agreement, or right after an official shutdown, something is found. I feel pretty strong that the Trump administration wants to use this against the Democrats and blame the Democrats. And I feel like this is a little bit of a dangerous situation. If they do mass firing, then this would really be um, a fear that I feel will prompt the Democrat maybe to find a way through, even if it doesn't get everything agreed, such as the everything related to Obamacare and all of that. Long story short, I feel like some sort of agreement will be found.
And would that include maintaining or even increasing the subsidies for the ACA?
Yes, I believe yes, that should move forward.
Perfect. The next question is back on, if you can remember back this far, it seems like yesterday almost, but back on March 8th of 2014, Malaysia Flight 370 veered off course, crashed. We all know the stories. Do you have an idea as to when the plane will be found, or when more and more of the flights, the plane, the carriage would be wiped up in shores? And do you know where, some people saying this could be the north, south part of the oceans. And of course, is this done by the pilots on purpose, or did something else happen?
I read on that before, and I felt like there was some sort of an object and an explosion. And I felt that the explosion was so intense that it feels like lots of small pieces being kind of everywhere.
Mm,
So I don't get the sense that we're gonna find like one big piece that will give us what happened. It feels more like a very extreme bang.
right. Okay. Thank you on that. And then the last question that I have is, will there be some sort of a man-made event or some sort of weather event that's so catastrophic that will bring people of the world together again? Sort of similar to what 9/11 happened to, within the United States. When the Twin Towers were hit by the planes and they came down, there was such an outpouring of sympathy and such an outpouring of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this just happened. And it seemed like to me that the people of the world sort of united to say, hey, this sort of stuff just can't happen.
I'm not seeing a particular event that brings everyone together anytime soon. But there's really two things that come to mind as far as I can see. One is I'm told like more and more issues related to global warming are going to bring people together, but they're also going to bring people against one another because there are going to be people who lose their land.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's going to be a source of war, actually. And when I hear global warming, I also hear war. Those two things are connected. So that's a bit scary, but I feel like this is about to come. The other big things that when you ask me the question I was hearing, and that is a little bit more exciting. It is related to ETs and extraterrestrial operation. And I feel like that is something that's going to bring a paradigm shift to the world. Having the complete evidence that there is life outside the earth. I feel like this is going to be a big, big thing. And I don't think this is far, like I would expect us to see this in our lifetime.
Perfect. Let's get back to what you were saying earlier, and that ET is actually very fascinating. You felt that there was going to be some wars with the climate warming.
For sure.
What do you mean by that? Because the water, I know there's water coming in from Canada, some of the rivers were coming down from Canada, I believe, to the United States. And some people say in the States, well, I'm going to block my water here. So then that means downstream, people won't get their water. Can you extrapolate, go into more detail what you mean by environment and wars?
Yeah, I didn't think of the US when I said that, just to clarify. I was
Yeah.
thinking different areas of the world that are going to be completely flooded. People will need to find space to live somewhere else. And you see like a huge amount of refugees that other countries can't handle, and it gets messy very quickly.
It's funny you thought of that, and I was thinking of water rights. People blocking the water so they could farm more, and then downstream impacts of building dams and all that. So it's interesting how we both came up with different sides of that.
Yes, but make no mistake, I believe that the global warming is going to be one of the most disruptive geopolitical elements in the world because it touches on water, it touches on food, it touches on land, it's touching on farming, it's touching on health, and it just goes on and on. Animals. There are so many species or today. We're going to talk about animals later with Anne, but so many species today don't exist anymore. Like the biodiversity has already completely been, and thinking that there's no impact to the world and our Earth is just it's just not true. And so, yes, I feel like terrorism is a big threat. I think it's equally as a threat as global warming and the implication of global warming from a geopolitical standpoint. Since we are on here, I am. It touches on something you asked before, which is AI. The amount of water that AI is using to function is absolutely crazy, even today. Gallons. I mean, we're talking like one query. I don't have the numbers with me, but one query could be a gallon. I mean, something of that magnitude to cool off the servers of the machines that operate AI. So you combine that with global warming, those two trends are just extremely powerful. There's a lot of reasons to be worried.
Yeah.
And around the world today, we don't hear about this pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
Like that, like there's no go. Yes, that's the Paris Accord, but this is just so small. I mean, like, and where do people talk about AI and where we all, to some degree, use AI, and it just goes very, very quickly. People has transferred a lot of their queries from Google to AI, without realizing the impact on the environment.
Yeah.
So it's almost like
energy.
yes, yes. It's almost like I read on an article and I feel like the analogy was perfect. They're saying like it's equivalent to someone taking a Ferrari car to go grocery shopping when they could use their regular car. And so that's what we're doing when we're using AI for a simple query that could be done on a Google search. So I'm so glad that we got to talk about this because
Yeah.
there's so many problems right now that it's just one more issue, but it is a very severe one. So thank you, Rob, for giving me the opportunity to talk about this.
You're welcome. Thank you for your insights. It's appreciated.
Thank you, Rob. And now we have Anne. And I believe if you
Hello.
can, hey, Anne, good to have you.
Thank you. My first question is about the International Criminal Court. The United States promoted establishing that, especially with Samantha Powers, our UN ambassador. And then when it was established, we refused to be under its jurisdiction, which is why Netanyahu, when he came here, could not be arrested, even though there was an arrest warrant for him. I believe when they started that International Criminal Court, they said there were so many years, it was a lot of years before everyone would automatically come under its jurisdiction. So I'm wondering if the US would ever come under its jurisdiction and if it will remain strong and strengthened.
I mean, the cards seem to indicate yes, but not soon. The world, obviously, we're talking about the world, so that is a confirmation of the topic here. Temperance tells us to wait, but then we get the Four of Wands. It feels like there's more of a foundation for something like this to happen and people to work together and collaborate, but it's not soon. It's not soon. At least 10 years is what I'm hearing.
Oh, that's sooner than I thought, actually.
Yes. Yes,
So that's good.
I imagine, but I heard 10 years. Yes.
Oh, great. Thank you. Appreciate it. And my next question touches a little bit on what Rob was saying. Will the AI and the internet replace the traditional educational schools and programs? I noticed that Harvard has over hundreds, actually, of free classes online now with degrees. And the most popular one is AI. But then also the law schools have put out a notice that they're now requiring the students to take AI classes, like you said. So I'm wondering if our traditional colleges will be replaced, and will the government, when it tries to control these platforms, will they diminish our intellectual freedom?
Absolutely, there's a problem here. Currently, Six of Pentacles, this is about teaching, receiving, and giving information for education on AI platforms. And the reason that they're pentacles, it's because of the cost. The cost is significantly lower. So there will be an expansion of educational platforms via AI, which then has, a benefit of allowing people to learn, but unfortunately not having an important part of learning, which is the critical thinking, because AI is not really capable of doing that. And the danger that who's going to be behind those programs and who's going to control people's mind with information that's going to be force-fed to students. So it's funny that you're mentioning law because we're talking about AI and justice earlier. And so, for example, what if, the law students were oriented towards a certain way in their learning of the law, and you could have more controls of the judges in the future. So I feel like this is going to be a big problem. Nine of Swords, the Six of Swords. It's almost feel like there's a departure from the current system, a change of paradigm that's going to be moving, and problems in the end. I feel like this is a very important issue, and unfortunately, like I'm not seeing good parameters around it, meaning that it's going to be a problem that's going to grow before it gets solved. There's nothing here that shows like it's going to get resolved anytime soon.
Okay, thank you very much. Trump has been trying to take control of the international corporations by demanding they act in a certain way, like Boeing, for instance. He said, we'll give you 200% tariffs if you don't have all your stuff manufactured in the United States. And he's also now doing that with Walmart. And I'm wondering if right now the corporations are fighting against it. You know, they're trying to keep their independence so that they can be competitive. But I'm wondering if the way of the future is that these governments will be controlling the business corporations in the way they're trying to control, you know, the people, the judges, everything else. Or
Yes,
will they be able to fight back?
I feel the cards are mixed, meaning that there's going to be corporations that are going to be, trying to keep their living and keeping their operations outside their US. Maybe some grants on incentive will be given to corporations to stay in the US or bring back their operations in the US. The moon tells me there's going to be a lack of clarity around this issue. So it's going to be messy. I feel like that's really the answer here because it feels to me like some are going to go for it and fight, some are going to leave, some are going to take the money, some are going to take the opportunities. I don't think there's going to be a unified US corporations answer to this. It's going to be a bit of a mixed bag. I feel that will the Trump administration get more control over corporations? Yes. That is unfortunately inevitable, but there's nothing here also that suggests like a complete 100% shift. It's going to be a mix of resistance and a mix of folding. Because there's a tension also. Corporations have a lot of power. They employ people, right? So I feel like there's like some give and take here.
Well, good. Thank you very much. I just saw a lecture by Nick Lorenzo, a CPA. He was talking about a book called The Great Taking, and it's about how we are switching everything to digital monetary, you know, from fiat, and that there's a plan behind it because then they can control the money and cut it off. They can make a social, you know, profile of each person, and if you're doing one thing, they can just cut off your money. And in fact, Vietnam just did that with 48 million accounts. They went digital completely, and then they just shut them all off. And they were saying, well, it's because we're doing a analysis or with this or that. Is there actually is that part of the plan to have control, to be able to control people's money, or is it just a byproduct type of a thing?
Oh, there is clearly a plan when it comes to currency. I will be reading the cards in a little bit, but a couple points here that I've mentioned in previous readings. One is that there's a push towards more crypto. Okay. And so that is already one. There's a push towards more digital transfer of money. let's just say, for example, more use of credit cards. When you do a transaction for a credit card, the bank gets some money. So I charge you $50. I will earn $49, let's say, and $1 goes to the bank. That same $50 that I use, which is now 49, I pay something to Rob here. And so I have another dollar that goes to the bank. And then Rob pays Jill. And then now we're down to 48 and so on and so forth. You multiply these at the end, the original $50 ends up being zero. And guess who got the $50? The financial institutions, right? So you have to realize that that's what's happening here. So that's number two. Number three is the control aspect, and the risks that are involved in that. If we cannot get money, cash out of ATM machines due to terrorism, due to global warming, due to an internet shutdown, due to a cyber attack, everyone gets in a real big problem. And then there are people who already think, how can they benefit from this situation? So I'm going to read some cards on the future of digital currency. Future of digital currency. Yeah, this is moving forward. The chariot moving even more forward.
Oh, goodness.
There's going to be some legal pushback. There's going to be a hold, probably from some legal reason, but digital currency, what's going to happen in the end? Eight of Swords, that's good, but you could read it both ways. People are going to be limited, but also the implementation of full digital will be limited. So there's also a tension here because I feel like a lot of people can see what's happening and there will be some sort of pushback, at least legally here. Page of Swords, to me, that's a legal card. But the movement to push for that is very much there for control, but also to benefit financial institutions.
Goodness. I'm glad it's a bit positive.
Yes.
And for my last question,
yes, it's not all bad.
Yeah, good. For my last question, it is on the more spiritual level. My mother was an astrologer, and she was the equivalent of Carr and Andre Carr and Rob Hand. She was on that kind of a level. In fact, she taught astrology before I was born. She told me the two great dangers astrologically of the planet are what we're doing to the climate and also the attitude of people, that if you're different than me, you're less than me, and therefore I can control you. And to go to the control, my belief on that is that we are teaching people by how we treat animals, with the cruelty we treat them, especially in factory farming, that attitude that you're different than me, therefore I can control you, and that leads to war, in fact. So I think there's a crux there. And I was wondering, will AI influence the young people to a much higher degree and show them that attitude is a byproduct of how we treat animals? And will that facilitate a kinder responsibility and appreciation of them?
Yes.
That's it.
Yep. Building on something that I've read on before is that I believe that AI, one of the positive of AI, will help us develop communication mechanisms with animals. So if today, as simple as that, we're not hearing their voice. But imagine in a world where you hear the animal's voice very loud and clear, that has to impact people's view on how they treat animal with extensive farming, etc., etc., the animal suffering. And so one issue that I see in the animal kingdom is that we don't have a communication mechanism. With a communication mechanism, it doesn't solve everything, but it clearly gives them a voice. And that, as a result, will help them and us. Okay, so let me pull a card here.
Thank you.
The Ten of Cups, look at this. This is the first time today we got this Ten of Cups, which is the happiness and the rainbows. That says everything.
Yes. God bless.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your wonderful questions, Anne and Jill as well, and Rob. We're coming to the end of the show. It's been just very fascinating. I think this is a show that talked about so many very important things. So your questions were really phenomenal. I want to thank you, and thank you for the time you took and the courage to be on a show like this and be seen with thousands of people who are now watching us, and also being grateful for your participation. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
You are an inspiration, sir.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't feel like I am, but I appreciate to do my share. Yes. Thank you, all of you. And thanks everyone for watching. And please, if you want to share this video, like, comment, I certainly appreciate it. We certainly appreciate, so it reaches more people in the YouTube community. Thank you so very much, and see you for the next episode of Meet the Psychic Press. Thank you.